Hi everybody, Tim here with tonight's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 11, 7-11, hey, Parallels. Sorry, I got distracted. So this is an interesting episode. To be honest, it's not really that great of an episode, and especially when we get to the end, it's just over. But it's an interesting episode to just kind of see what could have been. So it starts out pretty simple. Worf is on his way back in the shuttlecraft, and he just got back from a bat lift competition, which just reminded me how much I've always wanted one, because I kind of forgot. And he talks about how he won first place. And so as he gets on board, he's really paranoid, and Riker's like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "Oh, today's my birthday." And Riker's like, Riker gets all defensive, and he's like, "You think you're gonna get a birthday surprise? I don't like surprises." And he escorts Worf into his quarters, and then of course there's a surprise party. That's a cute little scene. They sing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow" in Klingon, which I loved. I thought that was a nice little touch on there. And then from here, this is where it starts to get weird, because a lot of things are shown right away. Like, Data paints him a picture, and you're like, okay, so that's the picture. And they start serving up chocolate cake, and he asks where Picard is. Well, Picard's on the bridge. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend. All of a sudden, the cake is now yellow instead of chocolate. And then Picard's there, and things just start slowly changing over and over again. And at first, they're little changes that Worf could have accidentally have missed. For his birthday, Alexander makes a cast of his forehead, which I thought that was kind of cute, because humans do handprints or footprints or something. Now, all of a sudden, the big changes start. He goes to look at his winning Batlift competition prize, and it's not first place, it's 9th place. And I think it was still Crusher at that point, it still says, "Well, you had a concussion because somebody used an illegal technique on you." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" So from here, the changes start changing very, very quickly. I could have done a whole list of just changes. It changes between Alyssa and Beverly as far as the doctors go. At one point, they think that it's connected to Geordi's visor, but Geordi's injured. So he goes to sickbay, and now it turns out that Geordi's dead. And they have Geordi's body laying down, and he is not covered by very much. That kind of took me off guard. I was like, he's almost naked on screen. And now, all of a sudden, Worf is in red because he's a commander, which I think they mentioned in that one. It was after the Best of Both Worlds when Picard got abducted by the Borg. They never got him back. And so now Riker is captain and Worf is the commanding officer, which I thought that was kind of weird. I figured it would go to Data first, but whatever. And some interesting stuff starts happening on the bridge, the bridge layout changes. There's a Cardassian ensign, because in one of the universes, basically the Cardassians and the Bajorans switch places. So Bajor or Bajorans are now the attacking, aggressive species, and Cardassians are kind of the more passive ones. Will Wheaton makes a special little cameo appearance as Lieutenant Wesley, and he's all in yellow and looking adorable. And it's kind of funny. I guess I was reading about it. I guess originally it was supposed to be Tasha, but then they thought it would have been too much like yesterday's Enterprise, and so they just called him Will Wheaton for it. It's interesting to notice that in a lot of these, Deanna and Worf are having a relationship together. And I've said throughout all of these videos that you see little glimpses of it here and there. And they bring up the episode where Worf hurt his back, and he had to ask Deanna if you would be the guardian or the stepmom or the godparent, whatever you want to call it, of Alexander. Well, now it turns out that they're married in a lot of these universes. And so it's the beginning of that relationship. And I mean, we got 12 more episodes for the season, and you see it throughout the rest of the season. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And like I said, a lot of this, okay, and so finally you get to the end, and I forgot the number they said. It was 1,200 Enterprise Ds. And Captain Riker is we got to find out where this Worf goes, and if we do, then everybody goes back to normal. He goes through the rift, everything goes back to normal. Now, it's interesting because when he goes through the rift and he goes back to his home universe, he's in the shuttle, and it kind of basically goes back to the beginning. And he's like, "Oh, today's my birthday." And Riker's like, "Well, don't worry, there's no surprise." And Worf's like, "Oh, okay." he goes into his quarters and there's not a surprise. So now it's kind of implied that the Worf we saw in the beginning of this episode and the Worf we see at the end, I mean, it's the same Worf, but it's two different universes. So, I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting. Like I said, so I like this episode, and it's fun to see all of the different possibilities and little things that could have been. But overall, like, it's not the best written episode, I guess. Like, at the end, it's one of those where we come full circle, so you're like, what was the point of this? So, for those who have seen this one, am I judging this too harshly? What did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Did you like seeing all these little what-ifs? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything. You're all amazing, and I will see you guys next time for the interesting episode, The Pegasus.